Good morning. Welcome back to another morning ritual for guitar growth. I'm Jason, your host, and I know it's I see one's on. Maybe that's Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. Hey, good morning, Mark. It's Mark, Mr. Mark. How are you this morning? I was thinking about maybe doing a fingerstyle session today, or maybe Bloody Mary morning, or some kind of Georgia sort of like grand finale, so that we can do something together. And it's a little lighter fare, but still learning some repertoire that's really fun and sort of popular and simple, relatively simple. So we'll see what we actually get into today. Oh, good morning, Lex, Mr. G, the OG of the live chat. I feel like sometimes when I get the live chat going, it's occurring to me right now that I feel like maybe I've been rushing through the introduction, sort of like the tuning procedure and the breath work. So I wanted to just begin by focusing and refocusing on breath work, and refocusing on the most important pieces of what we're doing, the fundamentals, if you will. All right, so what do you got going on, Mark, there? So this is, I know our good friend, our, lifelong friend, Kevin, has been working on, he's really interested in fingerstyle guitar, so maybe we'll get this together for him, and maybe the intention for today could be, health and wellness. I want to focus on health and wellness. So many times, so many days, I think I neglect to be grateful for any health and any wellness that I have in my life and in my family. And I want to use this moment to pray for health and pray for wellness for those afflicted with anything outside of that world of health and wellness. So there we go. I want to start with that intention, and I want to run with that intention through the spirit of this live broadcast. So bear with me just for a moment, and we'll go ahead and get started. I think we're in tune. What if we did Sweet Child of Mine in drop D? Let's get right down to the point, and let's go right off the rails just real quick this morning. We'll come right back, but I've got this. I don't usually do this. I don't usually deviate or depart from my morning ritual, but I think sometimes we've been talking a little bit about always and never. Session today. Oh, excellent. All right, so what if we started? go. And then we'd have to make it back to. So just roughing in the framework here. So we're looking A minor 7. So we're headed back to the top. And then here we go to, finally got that finger pattern worked out. It took me one pass through, but we got it. And I mean, just the healing powers of music alone. It just makes, it's just like the healing. Good morning, Jill. Thank you for being here. I never realized how much that sounds like moon shadow. Yeah, right on. And Jill, I really appreciate you being here. A person, you know, with your skills, and it's just a really great little session here. So I wanted, you know, I don't want to underestimate. I want to observe the great and wonderful healing powers of music. But I don't want to do that sort of in a hokey way. But I want to take this, before we just jump off into the fingerstyle session this morning. I was thinking, you know, Willie Nelson earlier today, Willie Nelson's Bloody Mary Morning, or Georgia. We're likely going to cover some ground today, so I hope you guys brought your helmets and chin straps. But I'm working on just roughing in, you know, a basic finger picking arrangement of Sweet Child of Mine, and we keep coming back to the song, you know, of course, because it's a classic now. And I'm in drop D. So we move from the D chord, the D tri. Let me show you what's going on, because if you're in drop D and you're following along with me, the guitar rarely feels better than this. Okay, so we're just is that Raul in the house? Here we go. The party's getting ready to start here, man. So we're deviating from the typical morning ritual for guitar growth. From the warm-up period, we're actually working on discovery right now a little bit. We're doing a little bit of research and development. We're moving from the, and then so I'm working on getting that melody sort of on top of a couple of chords. And the chord one is basically the, let's say it's a D, so we've got D, da, 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 and then C, da, 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 and then G, and of course in drop D, the G looks a little different, doesn't it? And then D sus4, and then D. We can do better than this, and we have C, the sus2 or add9, and then the G5 or the G with, you know, whatever, and then back to D. Now what we're going to do is actually frame those chords. So D, we're looking at D, and then we have all of those notes around the triad. And then the C triad. And then we have the G triad, which is, well, we might end up having to refinger this one as we go, because I guess we're just roughing it in. Okay, so I just want to lay this foundation, and then we'll get right into sort of some fingerstyle operations here with warm-ups. So especially since we've got Mr. McQuenna on board, and you know, if you haven't been following his finger stylings on his channel, you've got to check it out. He's making some really substantial progress here. Finally, that's right. Question, Mark, you have a question. So let me see if I can read this question. When we get to the warm-ups, what's the best approach to the warm-ups to enhance our fingerstyle feel? Oh, yeah, okay. Good morning, Mr. Greenear. Robbie Smith, good morning. Dirty hippie feet. Oh, that's funny. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. If you don't know if this is your first time here, I wanted to take a moment to express a welcome message and thanks for being here. And this is the morning ritual for guitar growth. I'm Jason, and I'm doing this every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. through the entire year of 2025, for better or worse, and of course, good Lord willing. So just kind of framing out the just a little fingerstyle chord melody of another 30 seconds and we're done. But of the Sweet Child of Mine, or Sweet Child O' Mine, oh mine. So here we go with the D. So that's going to look like this a little bit. And then when we get to the G, it's going to look like this. And of course, we have all of these notes that we can use around the diatonic notes to the D major, or well, it's the G major scale, isn't it? But you know, around each triad, so that we can create these. And then we can create these little melodies. So we have this to look forward to today. Let's go ahead and just get back into standard tuning and start zipping away through our warm-up session. So hopefully that was a good, you know, a good sort of shot in the arm to get us sort of moving a little bit in new directions and exciting directions for when we actually engage with practice on our own, right, in our own time. So those are fun things to wonder about. Now we're back in close enough tuning, and we were in drop D. So if you want to go back, we were drop D, but it could be easily standard tuning and just use the open D string. So we're going to work on some of that stuff today. 1 E and a 2, but we're starting with fingers 3 and 4 and frets 10 and 11, 10 and 12. We're running behind a little bit, but that's okay, because we're going to make it up at the end. 1 E and a 2 E and a, here we go. And it's just using index and middle fingers on the fretting hand or the picking hand. And I believe Mark had the question of, let's see, what were we asking? We were talking about how to basically optimize warm-ups for a fingerstyle approach. So let's do that. We're going to start with you know, the individual single note lines that we're used to. Then we're going to work on you know, sort of beginning to intermediate to advancing finger picking patterns. Just that they're super approachable, super easy to do, low barrier for entry type stuff. but we can develop these things to really, really work for us and add some serious punch and flair to our guitar playing. So that's good to know. So let's go ahead and just kind of just start working through the old breathing cycle. And if you would like to, you can also incorporate, so the picking hand could be ring, middle, index, or index, middle, ring, or whatever you want to do, but I'm using 3 fingers or 2 fingers. We're just taking the fingers for a walk this morning. And we're walking down the road. It's a little bit different than using a plectrum, but we're going to be okay. And if this is too fast for me, then I can easily cut my losses and then practice 2 attacks per beat, or even 1 attack per beat. And you'll notice that the metronome is running at 60, it's running hot at 60 beats per minute. I changed the oil in it this morning, so we should be in pretty good shape. And I haven't replaced the battery in this thing for, I don't know, I can't remember the last time I changed the 9-volt in this thing. I really can't. This thing just keeps on ticking. So we're just trying to work on tone, functioning with tone. So I'm going thumb to the D string first, second, and third on the remaining strings for the warm-up. It's pretty cool. Okay, so thumb. So you're using an individual finger for each string. That's good. That's the fingering independence that we're looking for. And so what Mark is, I think, let me know if this is accurate. Is this a reflection of what you just said? So we're starting with the thumb on the low E, A, and D string, so basically the bass region of the instrument. And I really appreciate you mentioning this, because the bass region of the instrument in classical music and folk, many styles of folk, fingerstyle, the bottom E, A, and D strings, regardless of the tuning, are typically considered bass notes and will be mastered by the thumb, right? So we have this, and then when we get to each subsequent higher string, those are typically governed by the index, middle, and ring fingers. Now, when you start looking at single note soloists or true like fingerstyle, those of us who've decided to, we have a determination to become very, very high level fingerstyle players, will start to work on more than 1 finger per string. So for example, I might, instead of using a pick to do downstroke and then upstroke or alternate pick, that's just a continuum, a binary continuum of downs and upstrokes, which is, obvious, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then you can use 1 attack per beat, or 2 attacks per beat, or 3 attacks per beat, or 4 attacks per beat, or 5 attacks per beat, or 6 attacks per beat, or 7 attacks per beat, and so on. So that basically is what I'm doing here with using the index and middle fingers to sort of like walk. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the right hand now, aren't I? So the right hand is the picking hand. It should look like this a little bit. If you were a classical guitar player, I know that all of these fingers, you can see that all of these fingernails are shaved, basically angled, so that when we're addressing the string set, everything is all the same sort of length, right? All of these fingers are right here. The middle finger isn't saying, haha, I'm the tallest. Well, no one else has anything to do, but this is what happens with fingerstyle guitar players. We end up starting to do this, we start to do this, we start to do this. We start to make these concessions so that each finger grouping can have full access to the string set at any one moment. But none of this matters unless we have a reference point. The thumb is going to be the reference point, the thumb on the picking hand. Once I come away from, this is the string, once I come away from, and this is 0, home bass, I'm going away from bass. Now I need to RTB, or return to bass, or return to 0 RTZ. And I know what that feels like, because I have a memory here of where that finger goes. The finger goes away from 0 and comes back to the 0. Then I have a record of plucking away and then coming back to 0, plucking away and coming back to 0, and then trying to come right back to 0, plucking away and coming back to 0, based on what I feel, the memory of how each finger feels right next door to one another. So this is an important posture right here. This is a good cellular structure. But this doesn't always need to occur, right? This can be we have a lot of different things going on, and then so there I would like to also to me these are all very different tools. If I'm a free climber, I'm using those little rubber coated ballet slippers to get my feet on the rocks and provide additional friction. If I'm an ice climber, I'm using a completely different set of footwear, right? And they all accomplish the same object, which is to travel vertically up through some technical terrain. It's world travel. I mean, but we're still traveling by foot, by hand, by axe, by fingertip. But the techniques change, the gear changes, even though we're trying to attempt the same ascend, different seasons, one time it's going to be an ice bulge, and next time it's going to be, a clean piece of granite schist that is just baking in the sun all day long. So different tool sets. So good question, Mark. That's a great question. So great observation. So I'm working through the single note line. We're just going to speed this thing up and get through to the 1, 2, 3, 4 things. We're going to just say that we've done all of the 2 finger groupings, the 3 finger groupings. Now we're just going to start with 4 finger groupings, so we can really put into practice some, really great sort of fingerstyle observances today. So let's go ahead and just start here together again, and we'll take it from there. We are at a speed too. Hey Lee. Oh, Polyphia. Yeah, there you go. What a brilliant guitar tone, brilliant guitar work, and brilliant just band work all together. When you can, get a group together and sort of play at that level, it's a beautiful thing. Let your soul shine. Good morning. So I'm going to thumb the D string for a second and third. Yeah, that looks exactly right, or exactly what I'm doing. All right, good. Now I'm working between the index, just only the index finger. Now what we're going to do is the terziando and apoyando, or basically the free stroke versus the rest stroke. We need to know these things as fingerstyle guitar players, because one day we might want to study Paco de Lucia. Do you know what I mean? We might want to know how to do this. If the guitar was in tune, it'd sound a little better. But you have the idea where the fingers work this way as well as this way. So the fingers go out, and they go out like this, and then they also work like this. They work like this. They also work like this. We need to know the difference between the rest stroke and the free stroke. So this is a perfect environment, perfect climate to absorb some of this information. So I know we haven't yet talked about this here on this channel, and definitely not in the morning ritual. So we'll start with the rest stroke, and then I'm going to illustrate the rest stroke using only the index finger. The rest stroke is exactly what it is. We pluck through the string and we come to rest on the next, let me see what on the next smallest string. And then sometimes our thumb will be anchored on another string. And then sometimes our thumb will be sort of like not anchored on the string. So different techniques for different things, I guess. So the other thing that I really think it's important to know is the rest stroke, where we're not stopping on the next smaller string. We're actually using a more controlled sort of picking sequence. And then that's, middle finger only, and then return to 0. So that's a completely different feel. Now our hands are mobile to go everywhere. The rest stroke keeps our fingers connected to the string set so that we really don't have that true mobility that we would have with the free strokes or rest. Here's the rest stroke and free strokes. When Matteo, Mr. Mancuso, just sort of starts doing the what does he do? He sort of does these scalar runs, and that's all sort of free stroke, right? But that's what we're working on today, is the free stroke with the index and middle fingers. That does leave a little bit to be sort of wanted, because we end up leaving behind open strings that we cannot control. And so that's when you start seeing guitarists sort of start tying a sock or whatever, the little dampening tool around the neck of the guitar, so that way they don't have the open strings don't ring behind especially on electric guitar, the open strings don't ring behind the open strings we're leaving behind from the fretted tones. So we're here, down here somewhere, 1 E and 2 E and fret 7, and we're getting ready to descend to position 6 here. Now we could introduce fingers, the ring finger. We could also just come back to the up way onto the free stroke with only the middle finger and the rest stroke, and then work on tonal development that way. Usually this starts with like quarter notes or eighth notes, at 60 beats per minute. And this requires a tremendous amount of focus. And when we first get started with this technique, the rest stroke, and then we can use also the ring finger. And this is the actual, when we use one finger at a time to do all of the strokes or all of the attacks, this is actually giving us the tissue. We're developing the tissue that we need to develop in order to be as proficient, reach higher, improve ourselves or reach higher levels of proficiency in the fingerstyle world. And so that being said, we have 4 fingers on the picking hand, and the 4th finger can also becomes the sole provider here. Show us your tremolo, please. Show me. All right, let's see. I fell in the water and come out with a fish. The finger grouping you described comes in really handy no pun intended, when you hit the four fingers, yes. Put a high A on your high E peg. Very cool. Who's that? Physics fan. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for taking a moment to drop us a line here in the live chat. Very cool, very appreciated. And then, so now we're just growing the pinky finger, you know, we're just growing the pinky finger, you know. And the fingernail isn't quite the right shape, but it's getting there. These are all exercises that really, so if you're not really good at breathing, you're going to get good really quickly, or you're end up putting this guitar right out through the window, man. I'll tell you what, these are probably some of the most frustrating and hardest earned techniques that I've ever encountered on the guitar. And that's no joke, you know. These are difficult times. These are going to breed hard fingerstyle people right here. These exercises are slow going, but very, very formidable when it comes to character building. So don't forget to breathe in all of that goodness and breathe out, you know. You can make yourself sick playing stuff like this, you know, easily. Time to make donuts. Hey, nice to see you, Jill. I'm glad you're here, and I'd like to order a dozen of those donuts, please. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we use all of these fingers. Let's start with the pinky, pinky, ring, middle, index. And it starts to become more challenging when we start using groups of threes instead of groups of fours. So those are all worth doing. So if we start with pinky, ring, middle, index, and then we use the 1, 2, 3, 4 exercise. I'm just working on the free stroke, and I'm keeping that thumb parked where it belongs. So I'm focusing on breath once again. And then wrist angle has a lot to do with, you know, your wrist this way, your wrist also this way and this way. All of those angles will become comfortable for us as we start to generate good quality tone using all 4 fingers on the picking hand. So depending on your the trick here is, I guess we need to understand the fundamental here. So the fundamental is having so between the elbow, I guess I need to explain this just for myself as a reminder, between the elbow and the wrist, that halfway point is typically where this arm will sit on the guitar. And that will be our sort of like, it can telescope, it can telescope and retract, it can protract, it can do all of these things. It can move around a little bit, you know, but I think we basically find a comfortable perch upon which we can create this. And then the next thing is to create this not too relaxed, but we have this nice, you can see it's a nice arch all the way to the fingertips, right? It's a sort of a relaxed arch all the way to the fingertips. And that's really where we want to be, and we want to remediate any tension that we may be holding in our forearm and certainly in our fingertips, because that's where the tone will come from eventually. You'll see. You wait, you'll see. want one with strokey, and you get, yeah, right on, man. When I used to use plastic fingered picks, oh, that's right, I remember those days, ping pong balls, Lee press-on nails. I would use 4 of them on the fingers because you could do some serious 4-finger picking on blues chords and such, but only occasionally useful. I only use a thumb pick these days. Sounds better to my ear. Nice, yeah. I only use pink index middle. Yeah, I got it right there, Pima. So developing tone with these fingernails and these fingertips, it really is a challenge, especially if we're, you know, if we're just starting out, really trying to get, I've got a little hook on my pinky finger and I can feel it, you know. But when I start to angle my wrist so that it's sort of up this way, that starts, all of these mechanisms influence tonal production, right? So we'll just complete this exercise. And then we'll go ahead and start talking about sort of like finger picking, the finger picking end of fingerstyle. And I'm just getting familiar, you know, with how much force, how much velocity do I need on each finger. Goes a long way. And it's a good idea to get familiar with playing different groups and patterns. So fingers 1, 2, 3, and then cycling 4, 3, 2, 1 around a 3-finger group pattern here. Those are all things that we eventually become familiar with, and it's a wonderful, wonderful world to be part of, the fingerstyle. So let's start with something that Adam. Good morning, Adam. Do you do upstrokes with the pad of your finger? Oh yeah, okay. Are you still here, Adam? Or downstrokes? Fingernails, index, middle. Yep. Can you please play country songs, sir? Oh, yeah, actually, you know what? This morning, if you were here for the beginning of the, okay, good, Adam. We'll go ahead and talk about that here, because now we're starting to transition away from the single note playing to like more like the, you know, maybe there's some kind of moving bass in here. So we were thinking like, you know, Sweet Child of Mine or something. There we go, right here. So there's a combination of finger tip and then fingernail. The fingernail here, I use this sort of like the Pierre Ben Suzanne sort of ramp. He's kind of, some of us like to frame the fingernail so that it's just longer than the profile of the round fingertip. I like to use these like they are shaped like little picks so that you actually like have the the shape of the pick, because the string rides the end, the string, if you will ride the pick down to the end and then be flung off, right? So the pick will fling the string off and set it to work. So this is the same theory, that this will be riding down the fingernail and then be flung off of the end of the fingernail. So all of those shapes really deeply influence what we're doing, right? Let's see what this is. Hey, Mark. I had to grab my guitar to figure out what I'm doing. That's really good. Can you please play a country song? So let's play. I was thinking at the beginning of this session that we would do something like Bloody Mary Morning, or some maybe Georgia. So what's that? So and then let's go ahead and do this a little slower. So let's think about Jo, Da, Do, Re, Mi. So we have the three, and then Do, Sol, Mi, Sol, and then we move from Mi down to Re, down to E minor, but then the 6 is on the top, and then there's a sharp 4 with the A chord, A dominant. E minor, add 9. So we definitely can sort of fingerstyle around with some country music, country style. Another one that's really great is Bloody Mary Morning, right? So let's see what we can do with a different style of fingerstyle. And we'll try to align it with the 60 beats per minute. So we're playing along with the metronome. I want to follow the metronome. I want the metronome to be the continuum. And I'm just starting in G, and then the song may not be in G. And it might be, I forget, but I'm just going to remember. So it's a bloody get back with the metronome a little bit more. You can see that we move from single note lines with a very different looking right hand or picking hand to, So there's a lot sort of going on here that's different from sort of self-accompaniment, you know. You know, it just gets really fun to sort of just track that stuff around. And there are different, really wildly different modalities and techniques for fingerstyle. So I wanted to just introduce some of the wildness, the wild, and then just focus in on how we can build those patterns just with open strings, right? So we're starting basically with D, open D, G, B, and high E. We could start with 2 fingers and then down to 1. So understanding 1, and then, so I'm focusing on 1 because if I angle my wrist in too much, then I end up hooking the string with my fingernail, and I get a tone that is not always desirable. It's a good tone to know how to make, but it's not always desirable. So I have to focus on getting that wrist sort of not bent negatively. Sometimes I want to bend it negatively, but sometimes, most often, I want to have sort of a positive bend or arch in it, like this, or have it be straight angle, and then just sort of arched out a little bit. So that's a good thumb position for me. And then the thumb typically comes from, working this all the way back to the wrist. The thumb is basically moving. This all connects with the string. This is all one unit of approach, right? So I try to keep all of this as one unit, and that gives a good solid transfer, and it gives the appropriate angle for the string to ride off of the fingernail and to pluck the string. Looking for the chords for which tune? Georgia? Tuxedo Cat is back. Hey, what's going on this morning? How are you? Wow, this is great. It's great to see the old faces just popping back up. And we're working on just a forward roll. So we started with a thumb. Mark, so you're looking for the chords for, what is it, Bloody Mary Morning or Georgia? So I'm thinking, let's turn this into Georgia, starting with the open D string. And then we could use maybe the A7. So what's funny is the G here with the D in the bass could also function as the E minor 7 with the D in the bass, right? So same chord. So the chords are, so G, and then B7. Let me just show you the chords here. So we have the G, just the open sort of Bob Dylan G, and then the B7, which is 2, 1, 2, open, and then 2. And then E minor, just a straight ahead E minor, and then A7, and then G down, G walks down to E minor 9, or just E minor, or and then you could do a 4, 5, back to the 1, and then we turn it around with the 1, and then maybe the 4, and then the 4 minor, back to the 1 again. So what is it? Alright, so there's some other stuff going on there, but that's basically the 1 chord, and then the 3 dominant, and then the 6 minor, and then the 2 dominant, or the 5 of the 5, which resolves a whole step back down to the 1, to the 6 minor, and then here's the turnaround, the 4, and then the 5, back to the 1. There's a lot of latitude in songs like this to build these beautiful sort of arrangements, so chordal arrangements. But we're sort of back with in the saddle with the sort of the right hand just kind of pumping through and just trying to find a good place to create good quality tone. Thinking just forward roll and then reverse roll. And if we wanted to get the pinky finger involved with the picking hand, I'm just opening it up to the A string. So 1, 2, let's do this. So this turns into 5 attacks per beat if we really wanted to use. But we'll have to start. That's available, but typically we'll go ahead and use the So what is this G? So if this becomes a G chord, here's a really easy way to make this useful, right? And really fun to practice. Now, let me just give you the sort of the G major scale, on the high E string. Let's check that out. What happens if? So we have Do, Re, and then Mi, and then Fa, and then Sol, and then La, and then Ti, and then Do. using that G on the top. We could go descending down to the 7 and then to the open high E's. So we have the 6. Oh, very nice light pastoral sound. And then we move up to the leading tone, which leads us to 9. Because we want to create anticipation in the listener's ear. We don't want to go right back to where it's expected all the time. That's good. So that's all forward roll, or just forward roll. All we need to do to create a completely different environment here is to use the reverse roll or place the melody first. So let's take a look at using sort of a combination roll of forward and reverse. This creates a different time signature for us. So we become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, da, 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 da. There's a lot that we can do with just this really brilliant, right, picking hand. This will help us to all right. So you're most welcome, Mark. I just see what you're saying here. So the finger picking approach, the finger picking pattern, whether it's forward roll, placing the melody absolutely last, or reverse roll, placing the melody absolutely first. So there's a lot sort of going on that will open up when we start really working out with a lot of, man, this really opens up that right hand, you know, that picking hand. Just forward rolls or just reverse rolls, but playing with, you know, intention and trying to highlight melody and almost ghost the other notes. You can use it. Right, to help to build your own constructions. But this reverse roll is great, the forward roll is great, the forward into the reverse roll is great. And then this is another nice one. This is, you know, sort of this by this shape, or thumb, index. So it's thumb, it's sort of a forward roll, and then come back to the index finger, and then skip up to the middle, you know, the ring finger. And you notice that I'm using rest strokes on every digit, right? So when I'm done plucking the string, I rest back. And then it becomes like a Temple of the Dog song. I'm going hungry, yeah. On my stealing bread from the mouths of decadence. And so on. So there's a lot to explore just by using chords and ideas that you might already have using the G major scale. guess we're done for today. Anyway, I'm so glad that you were here today, and I hope you have a wonderful. Today's Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again on Monday. And until we meet again, I wish you happy picking, friends. Bye now.